Hey everybody, Eric here. Welcome back to another video. I hope you're going well. I've got to say, it's been a long time since I've been absolutely captivated by a game. From the moment that I saw the title screen of Eastward, I knew I was going to be in for a treat. Now, it's a game that within its DNA has a lot of classic games that I know and love, and it doesn't necessarily shy away from that, but it stands on its own being its own thing. Even with some hiccups and some pacing issues along the way, Eastward proves to be one of the more compelling titles that I've played in a long time. Eastward begins with silent protagonist John and Sam, the funny and outspoken one, making a kind of father-daughter duo living on Potcrock Isle. You soon find out that your little town is isolated from the rest of the world, and it's frowned upon to leave by the residents and the mayor of Potcrock Isle. The fear that's instilled in them that nothing but death and despair awaits leaves you wanting to immediately know more about the outside world and the secrets that it holds. The story of Eastward is an interesting one. Trying to remain spoiler-free here left me wanting to know more in its slow, drip-fed approach. I don't normally like this way of storytelling, but let me tell you, the way that the world is built up and the questions you ask from the moment you start the game, it kept me hungry for answers even in the short 1 to 2 hour bursts I was able to play the game over the 18 hours and 2 weeks it took me to finish Eastward. Who or what is Sam, and why does John attack with a pan? But as the story advances, you'll obviously go to new places and learn more about the world and the secrets that it holds. Eastward does get dark at times, but even the bright and happy parts of the game, you still know that there's a mysterious evil that threatens the world and all those who inhabit it. And you're reminded about it quite frequently, and oftentimes with reality checks derailing an otherwise whimsical or happy-go-lucky scene. And it's more than welcomed. The characters you meet are as quirky and funny as you'd expect them to be, almost similar to the charm that you would find in Earthbound or Mother 3. Once you learn the secrets of the world, I feel that you can appreciate the characters and especially the main characters' motives more so. Again, trying to stay spoiler-free, I'll just say that it's worth exploring every inch of every town and getting to know the people within. There's some great dialogue that helps fill in story gaps. Now, Eastward in terms of gameplay pretty much borrows the Zelda formula, and that's not a bad thing. You traverse areas, you fight enemies in small batches, and of course, fighting a boss at the end of each area. Now, it's not a particularly difficult game, which is more than fine, but it does have its unique challenges with how you fight enemies and how you solve puzzles within each given area, sometimes having to split up from John and Sam and solve puzzles together, but while you guys are apart. I don't know, you'd have to play the game to understand what I mean, but it's really cool and again, a unique take on the Zelda formula. John attacks with his frying pan as the default weapon, but eventually you get other items like a flamethrower, a gun, and a gun that fires circular saw blades. Pretty handy. Not to mention bombs as well. The pan gets upgraded automatically as the story progresses, of course getting stronger with every upgrade. Your weapons can be upgraded by purchasing them at shops using money and gear parts you find in chests to facilitate said upgrade. It's worth doing for more damage, leaving you with more time to explore and less time fighting the bad guys. On the other hand, Sam can stun enemies and also interact with things on the map such as these mushroom-looking things and switches that allow you to pass to the next room or environment. It's clever in design, and it does get difficult by the end of the game, which is really great and, again, very much welcomed. There's also puzzles in how you fight enemies. Sometimes you can't just all-out attack them to death. You'll have to stun with Sam and then hit with John. So every enemy has a unique approach that keeps traversing your world unique and fresh as you progress through the game. You also have the ability to gather ingredients or buy them from shops to cook dishes that will not only heal you, but give you offensive or defensive boosts. It's worth trying out new dishes as soon as you get new ingredients, especially towards the end of the game. Once you learn how Eastward works, you'll know when to save the big meals for. It's quite funny that John cooks with the same pan he uses to smash the enemies. Speaking of meals, you can cook at these stovetops scattered along the world map. Something that's obviously been inspired by Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which are usually paired with fridges, which is how you save your game. Within the game is another game called Earthborn, which is very heavily Dragon Quest and Earthbound inspired. This game is the go-to for all the kids after school. So scattered around the towns that you travel, you'll find what looks like a Dreamcast on top of an old school TV. This is where you play the game, of course. Earthborn is a super cool 8-bit JRPG. The overall ending of Eastward isn't affected by whether or not you played Earthborn. I'd recommend checking it out because it's presented really well and somehow gives me that feeling of being a kid again. Oh yeah, speaking of Dreamcast, there's also nods to some other consoles. I won't spoil them, so go and play Eastward and see what you can find. To aid the story of Eastward is a really cool and unique soundtrack. You'll have your darker and more moody songs, as well as your happy and poppy ones, with a little bit of chiptune flair sprinkled in, obviously to drive home the fact that this is like a pixel game. So when you do hear certain themes and certain sounds, it conveys the emotions that are respective to those. So for example, when there's something frantic happening, there's a frantic song. When something evil is happening, there's an evil kind of theme. You get the idea. The more creepy songs are more or less textural synths that are straight out of Blade Runner or Stranger Things. Ambient notes convey a sense of isolation, loneliness, and despair. Eastward is a masterclass, showing sometimes less is more in terms of music. You don't need more than a few passing notes on a synth drenched in reverb to set the tone. One thing I've learned about over the years is you don't realize when sound design in a game is good, you just expect it, and Eastward is obviously no exception. The world feels very much alive thanks to audio cues, dialogue murmurs, and the music bed that sits underneath. Honestly, the music, again, and sound design in Eastward is the secret sauce that holds it all together. So if you play with headphones, you're definitely in for a treat here. The beautiful pixel graphics of Eastward are the icing on the cake for this game. I couldn't see this game being done in any other way. I think the thing that people associate with games like this is that when they see pixel graphics in a modern game, it immediately gives off indie game vibes, and honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. There's a level of polish that's been put into this game, from character animations to the minor details on the side of buildings, that some AAA studios can't even achieve. The world in Eastward is a place full of charm and pixel beauty. Unfortunately, it's not all gumdrops and graphics. The major issues I had with Eastward were mostly pacing. By the time I got to about 15 hours in, I was ready for the game to be over, and not necessarily because I was tired of playing the game, but pretty much because I wanted to know the why. Why are we fighting? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we traveling as far as we are? And eventually I did have that question answered, obviously by a really great and climactic ending, which was very satisfying. And if you're a softie like I am, well, aside from that, the game, interestingly enough, crashed on me at 2 different points. During a boss battle, I just finished the boss battle and it was going to auto-save, and all of a sudden it just said crash due to software issues. And funnily enough, at the very, very last battle, the final boss battle, did the final hit, screen flashed to white, and it said this game could not be played because of a software issue. It was fine because the game auto-saves, so I was able to pretty much backtrack about 4 minutes of my playtime, but it's unfortunate because it really derails you from that moment, which is supposed to be the climactic ending, only to be greeted with this software closed instead of credits. If I were to describe Eastward to someone, I'd say it's Zelda gameplay with the lighthearted and dark undertoned Earthbound story, and the term mother is used quite frequently as well. The father-daughter kind of tag team aspect of The Last of Us, the musical vibes of Stranger Things and Blade Runner. It's a complete package, again, that's not ashamed of its influences, but stands on its own to make a really special game that I highly recommend you play, because it's not necessarily a unique experience that hasn't been done before, but it is a really interesting story of good versus evil done in a way that you may not expect. Eastward is a game that reminds you that no matter who you are or where you come from, you possess great power to not only solve your personal problems, but the problems of others, and maybe sometimes even a dark evil that threatens the safety of the world and all those who inhabit it. All accessible by taking the train, heading eastward. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a brand new video. So there you have it. There's Eastward. I really enjoyed my time with it. Again, it's a fantastic game that I highly recommend you play. Let me know down below in the comments if you're interested in this game, if this video is kind of maybe going to convince you to buy the game. If you have played it, let me know, spoiler-free, what your thoughts were. So aside from that, that's pretty much it for the Eastward review. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. We'll see you on the next video.